Good afternoon. I'm Ellen Futter, President of the American Museum of Natural History, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the museum and to our spectacular Rose Center for Earth and Space, and we are especially delighted to host our governor, Kathy Hochul. We are also pleased to welcome Borough President Gail Brewer, who has served us so well, Assemblymember Dan Quarth, Senator Jose Serrano, Tourism Chair, Senator Brad Hoylman, Assemblymember Charles Fall, Assemblymember Bobby Carroll, Nancy Tavares, Hotel Trades Council worker, Kenya Ubrayu, New York Women's Chamber of Commerce President, Christine Nicholas, President, New York State Tourism Advisory Council, Fred Dixon, President, NYC and Company, Andrew Ridgey, Executive Director, NYC Hospitality Alliance, who ran the marathon yesterday, bravo. Bob Provost, President, NYCS Tourism Industry Association. George Newton, Chair, NYS Hospitality and Tourism Association. Vijay Dunapani, President and CEO of the Hotel Association of New York. And Risa Heller and Jonathan Rosen of New York Forever. All good friends of tourism, of New York, and of this museum. This museum was founded by the state of New York back in 1869, and for the past 150 years, New York State has been an integral partner as we pursue our mission of scientific research and science education, work that we think is more important now than ever. We gather today as vaccinated international visitors can now officially return to the United States, and boy, have we missed them. And we are so excited to welcome them back. Everyone knows that New York is one of the world's great cities. And of course, we here think that it is, without a doubt, the world's greatest city, with its world-renowned museums, Broadway shows, dining and retail, and its irrepressible, one-of-a-kind, indefatigable New York energy, spirit, and, dare I say, attitude. Not to mention the host of historic sites and glorious natural resources across our magnificent Empire State, all made even more vibrant and dynamic by those who visit here, who, like our own diverse residents, come from all corners of the globe. No wonder New York is a magnet for visitors. We have come so far as a city, state, and nation in beating back COVID and beginning to rebound. But it is simply not the same without all of our visitors. Here at the museum, we have endeavored to do our part by continuing to pursue our mission of science and education, now adapted to a new era of virtual and on-site programs, and many specially addressing COVID and viruses. And we have continued to be an important civic resource for our community, most visibly since April, by having a New York City vaccination site right here at the museum. And last Thursday, we began vaccinating children as young as 5 years old, and I must tell you, it was profoundly moving to see families with children lining up to get vaccinated here at the American Museum of Natural History, a place that is familiar, comforting, even enjoyable. Notwithstanding our progress, New York, and by extension this museum and other cultural institutions, will only be fully recovered when tourism resumes at full force. We can't wait to welcome those visitors, all our neighbors, to our Gilder Center for Science, Education, and Innovation, which is currently under construction and set to open in the not-too-distant future. For now, I speak for all of my colleagues in the cultural sector in saying thank you, Governor Hochul, for your support of New York City, New York State, and tourism. It means the world to us. Governor Hochul may be our new governor, yet look how much she's accomplished already, though she is certainly not new to public service. Whether at the town or county level, representing New York in Congress as lieutenant governor and now governor, she has fought hard for our state, for women's rights, veterans' rights, job creation, sustainable development. She's worked to address the opioid epidemic and more recently, managed our state's COVID response. We here at the museum are honored to have her here today. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my very great pleasure to introduce New York State's 57th governor, the Honorable Kathy Hochul.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Ellen, first of all, to you for embodying that New York spirit that you spoke of so eloquently. The fact that you had to adapt this whole institution to the pandemic and make sure that your employees were safe and to have a vaccination site. I know you've had over 50,000 vaccines administered right here. And now you're welcoming the children in a place that they trust and they know. So, Ellen, you are one of those extraordinary New Yorkers that we talk about. Let's give a round of applause to Ellen Futterman, the president of the Museum of New York History. I also want to acknowledge a number of the elected officials who are here as well. I know they were recognized, but never forget my elected officials, our partners in state and local government who've joined us here today. And I want to make sure that we acknowledge many of the leaders of industry and the people who are the keepers of the flame, the excitement that is New York State tourism. And we have Rich Morocco here, the head of the Hotel and Gaming Council here. Rich Morocco, thank you. Nancy Tavares is here. You're going to hear from her in a couple minutes. Stuart Applebaum, the president of the Retail Wholesale Department Workers. Thank you, Stuart, for your work. Kathy Wild, our fantastic partner with the business community, president of the Partnership for New York. Our senior leaders from my administration are leading the charge to make sure that we come back from this pandemic strongly. Roberta Reardon, our DOL commissioner, Roberta Reardon. Hope Knight, our incoming Empire State Development president. Congratulations, Hope. Ross Levi, the executive director of tourism, and I Love New York, a creative genius here. Mara Manis, the New York State Council on the Arts president. Thank you, Mara, for all you do. And Kenya Bravu, New York's Women's Chamber of Commerce president, who's here as well. Let's give her a round here. Kenya. Christine Nichols, the president of New York State Tourism Advisory Council as well. And I know the elected officials were acknowledged, but I think we might have missed Linda Rosenthal. Linda, are you here? Okay, we got Linda Rosenthal. So since day one, I have had one thought as your governor, and it's been a little bit short of 3 months. I want to make New York fun again. I want people to feel that vitality, that energy that all of us knew before the pandemic, that we just embraced. It was part of our DNA. And we talk about tourism, and I love the slogan, bring back tourism, bring back jobs. Then we bring back jobs, we bring back the workers in those jobs. But today is a major milestone. It is the day we welcome back our international travelers. So those of you who've enjoyed going to the airports without a crowd, sorry, those days are over, but that's a good thing. I just had one resilient New Yorker tell me that they just came back from the airport and had spent 2 hours in traffic because of the marathon, but said which you said, that was a good thing. I'm okay with that. That is so New York. We're just so happy to have traffic back again, and disruptions, and marathons, and Broadway plays, and Billy Joel's back, and our sports teams are back, and these wonderful cultural institutions are back, as well as all of upstate is back. Niagara Falls never turned off. Just want to tell you that. I went and saw Niagara Falls many times during the pandemic, talking about our idea of staycations up to the Adirondacks, the Finger Lakes, the Catskills, Thousand Islands, as well as the beaches of Long Island, how beautiful and charming it is, and Hudson Valley. No one has traveled the state more than I have. I have visited everything. I am one of those people who was inspired by Chevy Chase's movies. I went in search of the world's largest ball of twine. If you're younger, you probably don't know what I'm talking about, but you can look that one up. So I've loved the adventure of being a tourist my entire life. And so we have our international tourists come back. We have our Canadian tourists coming back. People in the North Country and West New York are very excited to start seeing license plates from Ontario and Quebec. It's been too long. And I can see Canada from my house. And I'm very excited about seeing more traffic on the bridges as we cross over. But this is an industry, tourism industry, how do you describe it? Everybody has their own idea of what tourism is, right? I believe that tourism reflects that very human quest for adventure and excitement, and something that takes them out of their ordinary lives. It also creates very human connections. Most people travel with friends or families or romantic partners, or they hope to come back with a romantic partner, depending on where they go. So we know how important it is to just leave the sanctity of our homes and our secure environment, and to push ourselves and to challenge ourselves and come to a place like this and to be so stimulated by the environment. And you're going to walk away smarter and more knowledgeable about the world around you. That's why people love this industry. And those of you who are the keepers of the flame and the caretakers of all the different institutions represented, and they are so diverse, from the botanical gardens and the zoos and the cultural plays and the theater and all the great things we just love, going to art galleries, just walking the streets, the upstate festivals I went to celebrate autumn. It is so extraordinary. And it just is, it's the cultural, the artistic, the entertainment experiences when we leave our homes, they really feed our souls. They leave us feeling enriched. And that's why we felt we were hungry and starving during this pandemic. Our souls were not enriched by these experiences. And in my opinion, the only way we're going to say that New York is truly back is when the tourism industry is back as well. I believe they are interconnected, our success as a state and the success of this industry. And I'm not looking to give anybody a bad flashback, but we know New York City was the epicenter. That word itself just triggers emotion when you think about the sirens you heard every night, and sometimes you heard at 7 o'clock, everybody banging the pans in appreciation, but you just wondered, when is this going to stop? When will we get some sense of normalcy? When will I stop looking down Fifth Avenue and wondering where everybody went? It's so desolate, it's so deserted, it's so unnatural. And not only did we have that experience, but you started seeing the close signs on our hotels and our restaurants and our most magnificent culturals and tourism activities and our art galleries and our small businesses. We all saw that close sign. And it was so disheartening. How long is this going to go on? A couple weeks? Maybe a couple months? It went on for what seemed an eternity. And so we had to take some steps. The federal government, thank God for Joe Biden and the federal government who gave us desperately needed relief. So on day one, I was able to make sure that we had our pandemic relief out the door. It had been jammed up for too long. People needed to pay their rent so they wouldn't be afraid of being thrown out on the streets after living their whole lives in a home. Excluded workers, people who worked so hard but just didn't have the papers to allow them to get the same kind of benefits. We got that money out the door. We made sure that we took care of people, so no New Yorkers were falling through the cracks anymore. The thought was that the jobs will be back, they go back to their jobs, everything's good again. But as we're learning from this pandemic, that didn't happen either. Not everywhere. Not in the tourism industry. Because we were missing the millions of people from abroad or the people who had come from other states who were just hunkering down themselves. We lost that connection. I mean, Ellen, you're down 40%. I mean, that's hundreds of workers. I don't want to tell you how much revenue you're down because that's another topic, but everybody lost something. Tourism in our state, when we're doing well, is a $117 billion industry, third largest industry in our state. Hundreds of thousands of jobs associated with it. And we used to have visitors come. 265 million visitors came statewide. They spent more than $73 billion. So where is that money going to be made up? That money is lost and is responsible for 1 out of 10 jobs. And just take New York City alone. We had 66.6 million visitors to New York. I swear I ran into all of them. People spent over $4.47 billion on hotels and restaurants and shops and souvenirs and attractions like this. That money dried up. All of a sudden it was there, and then it wasn't, literally in a matter of days, weeks, a couple of months. We used to have 403,000 workers in the tourism industry across the state. But then when we saw visitation drop by 40%, visitor spending cut in half, I did my best. I was all over the state. I was having tourism roundtables. I was upstate saying, come on, friends, if you ever wanted to visit New York City, the lines aren't long. Statue of Liberty hasn't gone anywhere. There's still a ferry. Come on down and experience New York. When I was in New York City, I was a reverse ambassador. I was saying, have you seen the Finger Lakes? Have you been up to the Catskills? Have you been to Thousand Islands? Have you been to Niagara Falls? Have you been to North Country? So I was doing this reverse thing. Wherever I was trying to encourage people to spend their money in the state of New York, staycations. And we promoted that, Ross. We did a lot of work with Empire State Development. So where are we today? We're not there yet. Despite what we're seeing, Broadway looking better. Went to a couple of plays a couple weeks ago. It was great. I've been to a lot of sporting events, walking in a lot of the culturals. I literally walk the streets of New York every single day just to see if anybody recognizes me. Sometimes they do, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Depending on their attitude, it's good or bad. But one thing I know for sure, as someone who stays in a hotel in New York City and has been for 7 years, sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week, the hotels are not back. Our tourism-related businesses like charter buses that used to transport people from the city across the state to Niagara Falls, they're not back. There are the cleaners of the hotels. I mean, there's so many jobs that are still not back yet. And we cannot be blind to this any longer. We cannot just say they'll be back tomorrow, just keep holding on. People have been holding on a long time since they lost their extended unemployment benefits back in September. I'm an optimist. They will come back. But we need them to hold on just a little bit longer and give them some help. Because when it does come back, we don't want the reverse crisis. The hotels are all ready to open, but there's no workers ready to step in who are trained and experienced, who understand how important hospitality is to our success, that welcoming face that I always see when I go into my hotel, no matter how late it is at night. People always make me feel part of the family. That's what today's about. Our hotel industry, room occupancy is down 20% statewide, 30% in New York City. State Comptroller's Office estimated that we've had a $60 billion hit to tourism. And we talk about the people who've lost their jobs, who are still waiting for the jobs to come back. They're younger, they're lower paid, they're immigrants, many without college degrees. So you can't just say, oh, you don't have your job here, why don't you go work in advanced manufacturing, or why don't you go pick up a job coding, or why don't you... That's not going to happen. They just need a little help a little bit longer. So my recognition is that New York will not come back until everyone's back in their jobs. We bring back tourism, we bring back jobs, and that's why today I'm very proud to announce a $450 million investment in our tourism workers and our businesses. First in the nation. We're doing it right here in the state of New York, first in the nation to make that level of investment in our people and in our industries. First of all, let's talk about those workers. We're allocating $100 million to support the workers who are not able to come back or are not fully employed in the tourism industry. These will be one-time payments of $2,700. to as many as 36,000 people are just hanging on by a thread. We have to help them with this one-time payment, let them get through until they get that call they've all been waiting for, that your job is back, come on home. That is going to happen very soon. And who are we talking about? The people at the airlines. People who, I've spent a lot of time in airports too. These are the people who work so hard. They wipe the tables when you get up and leave half your food on the table, which you never should do. You should clean up after yourselves. These are the people who play all kinds of roles. People who have not been able to clean a room or to be a person working at the front door of a hotel because there's nobody there to welcome in the door. So many hotels are still closed. So we're going to be helping people in those industries that have not come back fully yet. We're also going to work to help our businesses. A lot of businesses, just how much longer do I have to hold on? How much longer? We're announcing a $100 million return to work grant program. And we're incentivizing the tourism businesses, the non-for-profits, including the culturals, to rehire their workers sooner. We know you can put them to use. And I know financially it doesn't make sense. That's why we're going to help you out. Bring them back now. Hold on to them for at least 6 months, and we'll give you $5,000 for every full-time employee added, and you keep over 6 months. Let's help those businesses as well. So, to the museum that had to shorten their hours because they didn't have enough staff, for the business that isn't fully operational, they're never going to make their full profits if they don't have the hours they used to have, but they can't have the hours without the workers, and they don't have enough revenue coming in to pay for the workers. So we'll give this extra bit of help of $5,000 per person. And that's everywhere from a small bed and breakfast up in the North Country that's still waiting for the Canadian visitors to come over. Just let them hold on a little bit longer, all the way here to the businesses I mentioned in the city. Our small businesses. I helped start a small business, my mother's little flower shop. She didn't like the flowers that were done by a neighboring florist at my brother's wedding, so my mother, knowing nothing about retail, nothing about business, says she's going to start a flower shop. And her daughter, the newly minted lawyer as of a month, was going to help her do that. So I have a special affinity for small businesses, I can tell you. I know the risk they take. I know they put their heart and soul into it, and they just want to be given a chance to survive. So we are going to be announcing my plan to propose for the next legislative session $2 million of a business support program to help our small businesses. We had a program before. We need to put more money into it. We've already provided $325 million in assistance to 20,000 small businesses already. 83% has gone to MWBEs, and I'm very proud of that. Let's keep that money flowing for these individuals. Well, again, we thought really hard about how we get tourists here. Now, one area why they're not staying in hotels and not going to the cultures and not going to plays, the conventions are not back yet. I've spent a lot of time in Javits. It's a lovely field hospital and a great vaccination site, but that's not what we want going on in Javits. We want Javits to be packed with people from out of state, people just with their wallets bursting with money they can't wait to spend here in the city of New York or all across the great convention centers in New York. So let's focus on getting the conventions booked again. Let's have that certainty to know they're going to be back. And so we are announcing a $25 million grant program for convention and event centers. We're calling it Meet in New York. Let's all meet in New York. And I think that's fitting. We want to let tourists know from around the world and the people who organize the convention, the businesses, the industries, to know that this is the place to come. And one more selling point. We have a 1% infection rate in the city, less than 6% in some areas upstate, 2% statewide. This is where you come. Plan your vacation, plan your convention, plan your first in-person meeting that you may not have had for 20 months. The smartest people are going to take their friends, their allies, their business workers, coworkers, industry partners. They're going to want to bring them to the safest place they can. People are smart here in New York. We've worked awfully hard to drive down those numbers, and we will be among the first in the nation to declare the end of this pandemic. When that day comes, I will celebrate like no one ever saw me celebrate. But until then, let's let them know you come back here, and we're going to be offering assistance to you to the tune of $25 million for assistance for our bookings. New bookings, you come here and you book a new program, we're going to help you out. We're going to have grants all the way from $50,000 up to $2 million to bring major attractions here. So I'm very excited about that. And lastly, We are going to be let's start spreading the news. Start spreading the news, not just here in the States, not just New York, but we are taking our message to Europe and select countries across the globe to make sure they see our advertising, that they have a chance to see this where they consume their data, where they consume their media, digital, on television, and let them see the great advertising that we have to entice them when they're sitting there saying, it's time to get on a plane again, it's time to book that family vacation, time to book that reunion, that they will think of nothing but New York State. So we're allocating another $25 million to enhance that global marketing campaign. So those are the elements of our plan. And my message, finally, is when this industry rises and comes back, that'll be the best indicator that we as a state will rise and be back. This industry is critically important to our psyche. This defines us. This is why people view us as the most exciting, most vibrant, most engaging place on this planet, and anybody disputes it, you gotta get through me first, because I believe this to my core. That is the essence of New York City, that is the essence of New York State, and we are going to get out of this. And we're going to look back at this time, and people will judge us. Even if we don't judge ourselves, people will judge us, say, how did New York State get out of this pandemic once and for all? And I will say it was the people who rose up. It was the industries who rose up. It was the people who were able to get back to work, because when we were back to tourism, we got the jobs back, we got the workers back, and it all began here with these targeted approaches, this way we can put incentives on the table. So no one has an excuse not to get back to work. We want them back to work. We want the businesses to reopen. We want the conventions to come here. We want the rest of the world to know that our arms are open. Welcome to New York. Thank you. Thank you. And
I want to thank
just
Governor
a little
Cap-
commercial break. I spoke to our Secretary of Labor last night in Washington. We asked him if he'd be part of a celebration and also part of a message here. Ladies and gentlemen, our Secretary of Labor, former mayor of Boston. We didn't talk sports, I guarantee you. We didn't talk sports. And Marty Walsh.
I want to thank Governor Kathy Hochul for inviting me to be part of this exciting announcement. President Biden's approach to the nation's recovery is to bring the full force of the federal government to bear for workers, families, communities, and states. We are getting people back to work, helping small businesses rebuild, and creating a more inclusive economy. With Governor Hochul's leadership, New York is a model for getting this much-needed relief money out the door and into the hands of working Americans. One vitally important sector to New York is tourism, and these workers still need our support. The tourism industry has taken some of the hardest hits during the pandemic. Visitors had to cancel travel plans, seasonal attractions were closed, and sporting events were paused. Sadly, too many tourist industries workers have fallen through the cracks. That's why I commend Governor Hochul's announcement today. She is taking the initiative to make sure relief gets to tens of thousands of workers who are still recovering from the pandemic. And she's also investing in the industry to bring back jobs, good-paying, middle-class jobs. Through President Biden's Build Back Better agenda, we will bring down the cost for all working families and strengthen the middle class. In the meantime, New York's forward-looking approach will provide immediate relief to many of the hardest hit families, and it will bring back an industry that is critical to reopening our economy. This is an industry that President Biden is committed to rebuilding, and just yesterday, our international borders were open to vaccinated travelers. So thank you, Governor Hochul and the state of New York, for supporting our workers in these times of need, and for leading the way for a more equitable recovery and a more prosperous future for all.
Please welcome Nancy Tavares from HTC.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nancy Tavares, and I'm proud to be a member of the Hotel Travel Council. I was born and raised in Colombia, and I come to New York when I'm 17 years old. Since there, I working my entire career with tourists and industry. I prepared airline meals for 12 years. And over the past 23 years, I have working a food service, restaurant cashier at the Radisson Hotel JFK. On 2019, I can forget the second week of March when they called me and give me the letter, wasn't laid off. And not only myself, my husband, working in the same hotel as a driver, he got laid off in the same time. And really everything in my family go down completely because it's no way to bring money when you don't have a job. I ended in good way, benefits and raised 3 children, and take proud of welcome people for all the way of the world to New York City. I ended in good way, no, I'm sorry. All through God turned it upside down when the pandemic hit. And on Labor Day, when all of the federal unemployment benefits go out, I didn't know what to do. We have a strategy to pay bills and put some food on the table. I had going to church when they give you some food, and I wake up early and make a line just to bring food for my children. I had to take money and ask for money to pay my mortgage, and I really still have to pay back that money, and I'm still on layoff. Eventually, tourists is going to come back to life, and it get back to work at the hotels. But in the meantime, I've been hard to find another job and bring some food to the table for my family. And that's why Governor Hochul's program to help workers and to help hotels raise time again is so important right now. Tourism is so important for New York, and tourists working have taken the hard economic hit from the pandemic. Working like hotel housekeepers, food service working, airport and airlines working, they all need to back to work. And we need those working to make sure they restrain the pandemic. We aren't going to have the economy run again, 100%. Governor Hochul, thank you so much for all your leadership and your support for hospitality working.
Please welcome Kenya Abreu, President of the New York Women's Chamber of Commerce.
Just hope I don't have lipstick all over my face with this mask. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kenya Abreu, President of the New York Women's Chamber of Commerce, and I want to thank Governor Kathy Hochul for inviting me to join her for this exciting announcement. Boy, am I happy to be back from Puerto Rico today. At the New York Women's Chamber of Commerce, we work for small businesses. We're an organization that represents thousands of small businesses in the city of New York, and especially women and minority business owners. Those are the businesses that have been hit hard by this pandemic. We all know that this is a city not only of tourism and workers, but of small businesses as well. And we are a partner of the state of New York in their effort to grant funding through the pandemic small business grant program to small businesses. And we are very proud to be doing that. We have been able to help many, but there are also many that have been left behind. And our motto here in New York City and at the New York Women's Chamber of Commerce is that no small business should be left behind because they are New York City and they are New York. That is why I am happy to be here today, and I commend Governor Hochul's announcement today especially the $2 million that are going to small businesses, to those businesses that we have to turn away because they didn't meet the criteria. And that particular criteria was, or is, that they started their business right before the pandemic or during the pandemic. And we should not penalize them. Contrary, we should celebrate them. We should help them stay in business because that's what New York City is, a city of small businesses. We had to turn away a small business in Inwood and many others. Amore is the name of that business in Inwood, owned by a young Dominican woman, born and raised here in the city. And we had to turn her away because she just started her business prior to the pandemic and she didn't qualify. So today, I'm gonna make a call when I get back to the office to let her know that she qualifies, that she's going to qualify because you're fighting for her. Because as resilient as our small businesses and our city and New Yorkers just in general, even during the pandemic, we still opening businesses. We still have many opening businesses. And we want to make sure that people continue to do that. So this investment will help jumpstart our recovery and build back the small businesses that are the livelihood of cities and towns across the state, and make opportunity accessible to all who want to start a business, because that's why we come here. I'm an immigrant, born in the Dominican Republic, raised here, and that is why we come here. When people talk about the United States and coming to the United States, many of us really talk about coming to New York. That's really our United States of America. And we want to make sure that people continue to do that. So thank you so much, Governor. And as a board member of the Javits Center, that beautiful, beautiful space that I invite people to come and take a look at, the convention center, I am just so incredibly happy for that too. We want to make sure that people come back. We want to make sure that we have our conferences, and we want to make sure that people use that beautiful space. It's gorgeous. We want to make sure that everyone comes and visit. So thank you so much again. And New York is open. New York is open for business. And we want to make sure that our tourism industry comes back, that our small businesses continue to grow, and that our workers are back. That's what we want. I was talking to Kathy saying, you know, we want our people back in our offices. We want our people back in their jobs. That's what New York is, the vibrancy of our people in the streets and working. So thank you so much again, Governor, for this opportunity.
Please welcome Christine Nichols, Chair of the New York State Tourism Advisory Council.
Good afternoon. It's so exciting to be together once again on the day that New York's borders are opening to international visitation. Keep in mind, international visitors may only make up 20% of the visitors, but they are responsible for 50% of the spend. And when the governor mentioned $117 billion coming to New York, you can tell how much we are ready to welcome them back. But I want to say how fortunate we are as an industry to have a governor like Kathy Hochul, who really understands and believes in tourism so deeply that she's able to put forth this support package, which will help our industry continue to be a vigorous driver of the state's economy. Thank you, Governor Hochul, for always being there for the tourism industry when times were good, and now during a very challenging time as we strive to rebuild New York's tourism. You give us the hope and optimism that we are ready to welcome back our international friends and encourage our neighbors and families to come back to New York. And what's really great is now, and it's been a long time, we can say united as a city and a state and stand together with one voice and a unified voice to say how much we love New York. When the curtain went up on Broadway, Governor Hochul was there to help usher in one of the state's great tourism economic drivers. She knows when it comes not only to theater, but to New York tourism that the show must go on. I know the governor and the New York State Division of Tourism look forward to working with our partners. Fred Dixon is here from NYC and Company, and other tourism promotion agencies across the state, our transportation partners, the lodging partners and the lodging properties, the frontline attractions, and our entire tourism community to build New York State's tourism industry back better and stronger than ever. As you know, yesterday, the eyes of the world were on New York City as well, I know somebody in this audience ran the New York City Marathon, but we watched, Andrew. we watched, and it was great. The New York City Marathon epitomizes New York's spirit to move forward. This journey back to record-setting levels of tourism will be a marathon, not a sprint. And it is so heartening to know that New York State will be with us every step of the way to help encourage and cheer us, but more importantly, to give us the fuel needed and that energy boost with these economic development initiatives that we will get more New Yorkers back to work and back into the race for success. Thank you, Governor Hochul. I want to thank Ross Levi also with I Love New York, and I believe that that concludes the program. I want to thank our wonderful speakers. You know, I was noticing, I don't think this was meant or it was programmed, but all of our speakers were women. I'm just saying, okay? And I've been in this industry for 30 plus years now. It's been a long time. My goodness, how things have changed. And now we have a governor, Kathy Hochul, so we're very, very happy that you will be leading the charge. Thank you again, Governor. Have a great day.